Hey now, I'm Brian, and next week I'll be at the Canadian Grand Prix.
Now, I'm Rob, and next week I'll be at the Canadian Grand Prix.
We don't normally start this like that, but welcome
And
to
maybe next week we'll get a third Hey Now to join us from the bar again.
Yes, I hope so. I hope so. As always, you're listening to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast, but Rob and Brian are going to be on assignment next weekend, and so we are more than a little excited. Question: How you doing, Rob?
Oh, I'm tracking the daily progress of the t-shirts that are going to be shipped and here on Tuesday. So we're ready. We're locked and loaded. Learned the lesson this time that on the back now we have the Dirty Side of the Track logo, but we got a few people stopped to say, "What is that?" So now we have the tagline: "Podcast on tour." There
I'm
can
not
be
going to
no.
say you turned us into walking billboards, but you turned us into walking billboards. But it makes sense, so I'm all for it.
It's the
We
best
just
advertise. Yeah, the
yeah, we
best
just can't
advertising
be
we can have walking around.
yeah, we can't just break any laws because we basically have license plates. Like they're gonna say, oh, it's the dirty side of the track guys who jumped into the track and ran down the thing and did the thing.
Well, you can jump onto the track and run down the thing and do the thing
I
if you
couldn't
want,
think
but
of
I'm
anything we
gonna
would
stay
do
in
in
the scene,
Canada that
but
would get us in trouble at the track. So
exactly. We're
yeah.
not going to get into trouble. We're going to mill around with like-minded souls, a couple of 100,000 Formula One fans with advertising on our back and our front with different logos for each day. It's going to be amazing. Anyway, before we get there, we are going to do the news and social of the week. We're going to look at the video vault. We don't have a race to review. So instead, we've gone and found a guest. We'll introduce the guest when we get there. And then we're going to do a preview of next week's race, which apparently is in Canada, and apparently we might be there.
Might be, maybe, could be, will be. I can't wait to be there. All right, let's talk about the news.
Okay, so let's jump on into what we found here. And this first one comes from Terry at the Coffee Corner. And as I was Googling it, I couldn't find anywhere or many places that even found this story. So kudos to Terry, because he goes hunting for all the news stories. But Ferrari apparently failed the FlexiWing check in Spain during FP1. So all that new technical directive came out, which we got so sidetracked talking about everything else last week. We didn't even mention FlexiGate because it turned into a bit of a nothing burger.
A bit of it
But
was
apparently,
but
well, it was yeah. So the Ferrari wing failed the test in FP1. And they were extremely lucky that whatever they needed to do, I don't know, slap some more duct tape on or something, but whatever they had to do to stop it flexing, they were able to do it in time for FP2. It was something that could be amended at the track, and they passed the test in FP2. If they hadn't passed that test, that was a double DQ coming for Ferrari before they even went to qualifying. It's crazy they could turn up with something that failed the test, even though the test was published ahead of time.
well, they got to do a makeover, a do-over. They showed up after school and they got to take the test one more time. Let's see how they did. So great. Wasn't it Ferrari? Wasn't it Charles who had no front wing end plate and went faster not long ago? Was it this year or late last year?
Yeah, I think one of the tracks, wasn't it? He kind
Yeah.
of
So
lost
is
his
that what they
front wing
did?
and
Did they show up with no end plates on either side and be like, "We shall be faster"? Is this count as flexi wing?
I literally think they just got some little bit of metal and just glued it on to stop it bending, and that was enough.
Oh
But
boy.
talking about the flexi wings that didn't, well, I was going to say we don't know who was reporting what, but if you believe the internet, then Red Bull were the nasty guys for pointing at Mercedes and at McLaren and saying they're cheating, their wings flex too much, and when we get this technical directive passed, it's going to nerf McLaren and they're going to be nothing. Well, that didn't come to pass, and Zach Brown absolutely knocked it out of the park with his social media post. He put on a celebratory photo of Lando and Oscar celebrating the 1-2, little bit of, congratulations, blah, 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 blah. Final line on the post, love the wings.
That's awesome. With his tire water, the thing, he's becoming quite a troll, and I'm here for it. I'm here for the Zach Brown trolling era. He was also at the London Business School this week, and there was a picture of a lot of students. I'm assuming it was beyond just a singular class, even a large large group class like that. It could no way could have been that many kids. And so they're all there posing with Zach, and right behind him there's a fine looking man in a sport coat and tie, Nicky Latifi. And I loved it. Smash the like button, subscribe, or whatever you need me to do on that internet situation there, social media people. I was here for it. I love it. Go Tiffy. Yeah, I miss Go Tiffy. I actually have a Williams story. We'll get to that in a second as well in the video vault.
Oh, okay. I didn't dig into this one too much, but it just caught my eye that all of the initial reviews of the F1 film have all been positive so far. People saying it's like not people coming out and going, "Oh my God, swerve this one. This is a cheese fest. This is awful. This is just I don't know what was the arm wrestling film with Sylvester Stallone, Over the
Over the
Top.
top.
This is just over the top, but with cars. Like no, none of that. It's genuinely getting good reviews, so I can't wait to see it. Actually, I think I'm gonna go and see that as soon as that comes out.
There's some desire amongst my friends to go as a large group because they know I love it. I have some F1 friends, and I've converted some into F1, and so we may do a big group IMAX situation to go check it out. Yeah, so I saw the next story. Red Bull submitted a request for a super license exemption for Arvind Lindblad. And this came out, and there were like all kinds of different aspects to this. And first off, the question was Max did get penalty points. We recorded last week before it was clear whether he had gotten any. We knew he had had the penalty, and sometimes penalties automatically come with penalty points. We just weren't sure for what he got and what it would be. I thought it'd be 2. It was 3. It puts him at 11. So he's on the cusp, the precipice, the verge of a one race ban. We'll see if it happens. But the question was, is this for that? And I thought it was pretty funny because a lot of people were talking about Red Bull this week. And then there were pictures of Christian Horner looking after a youthful Danny Rick and saying, I miss you, come back. There was a conversation that Valtteri had about Cadillac, and he actually mentioned Red Bull and how Helmut Marko apparently doesn't like him. And it goes back to that Hungary crash. So all of this swirl is Lindblad being asked for the super license exemption in case Max gets banned, right? Isn't that effectively the story?
It is, and then it came out that they'd applied for this before the Spanish Grand Prix, so the two
Right.
things aren't linked. But it's like everyone's jumped into this big foregone conclusion that Max is going to get another penalty point and therefore will get banned, and therefore, oh my God, who's going to drive the second Red Bull? And I've never seen. Actually, that's an exaggeration to say I've never seen the internet grab a story like this and run with it because it happens all the time. But this one has just gone nuts. It's like they're almost like saying that the Pope's going to be driving the car. I mean, it's like anybody you can think of is getting linked with driving this when the inevitable happens and Max misses a race. It's like I think he's only got
A month.
a couple more races a month, and
Yeah.
then 2 of the points drop off his
Right.
license anyway. So it's
He'll
like
be fine.
this is smelling like a freshly fried nothing burger served up
100%.
between nothing buns with nothing lettuce and nothing cheese. Boom.
All right. That was okay. You took that really far there.
Oh man, what else do we find? Right, good old Gunther might be coming back to the world of motorsport, but in a surprising twist, not F1. Apparently, he's in conversations with Tech 3 MotoGP outfit and might make a move over to motorcycle racing instead. So he can just go and
Swear over
smash
there.
and slam doors and yeah, whatever
Do
whatever he wants to do there instead.
Do his situation over there. The last couple things here, Alonso says that next year's car will have a huge impact on his retirement decision, but that ultimately the stopwatch will tell him when it's time to quit. Yeah, we all know if Adrian Newey weren't there building the 26 car, he'd be looking at it like, this thing's a big mess this year. Do I have confidence for next year? Now he's at least like looking into the door like, can I see the car? When is the car ready to talk about? Adrian, what are you thinking? He's like Rocky over here. Yo, Adrian, tell me about the car. And you know what? I don't blame him. I mean, why would you not wait to see what that is?
Exactly, and I think what will have really helped is, as we mentioned last week, was that Alonso was bigging up Newey's effect on just this year's car, even though he's had nothing to do with designing it. He's just kind of standing there going, I wouldn't have done it like that. I would have just like stuck that bit up there and taped that bit down and painted that bit a different color, and you go faster. And they've all gone, oh, really? And so, if he can see that New is having an effect on this year's car, where he's had zero influence in designing it, and can see he's making a positive direction change, you're like, yeah, I'm going to hang around and see what this guy can do with his pencil.
Totally. And then the last story is actually one that is real, but we're going to take it in a slightly different direction. I am going to do my best to make it fake. And so let's go into the chopper over the rumor mill. It was reported that Cadillac have signed up with Tommy Hilfiger as official team apparel partner. That's true. The part that's not true is therefore Lewis Hamilton will be joining Cadillac because of his long-standing partnership with Tommy Hilfiger. So since Ferrari's not working out the way he may have thought it was going to work out, K1, press K1. What's K1? Stop talking under braking. Why don't you guys have a tea break? What's going on over there? Switch back with Charles. Charles back to Lewis. Lewis back to Charles. He's going to be driving for Cadillac next year.
Wow, heard it here first, folks.
0.0%. And then the last note that I have in the top section here is I went sim racing this week. I actually went twice, but it's kind of a long story, and I'll tell the short version. The short version is man thinks he knows how to drive video games. Man loves cars and racing. Man gets in a sim. Man is bad. His feelings are hurt. But he still has a good time drinking beer with friends. That man is me.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Brian.
Was that obvious? I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't think any people listening would have connected the dots there in your kind of Hitchcock style drama that you were.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but yeah, it did not work out quite the way I anticipated. It was a lot of fun. Shout out to David and Sam and Jared. They were helping us out, and David subscribed to the pod while we were there talking at the end, and to the owner, Camille, of the place. We had a great time. So I will be back. I will bring some friends, and we will do it again. And one day, I will not be rubbish around Monza. I'm just starting with Monza. I did Interlagos really bad, and then I did Le Mans backwards. I mean, it was like I actually ran into the pits 5 feet in the air. But okay, let's open the video vault and move on with the episode. So I teased it, I talked about it, I said there was a Williams story in the video vault. Leah Block drives Claire Williams in a rally car on the Dirtfish channel, 13 minutes. Felt at times like Claire was trying a little too hard to be, I don't know, put the word in here, fun, having a good time, excited to be there. She seemed to like actually want to be there, but it was just like a little bit over the top. However, aside from those couple moments when she felt like she was forcing it, I think she had a great time. I think Leah had a great time. Obviously, Leah's in the Williams Academy, and Claire Williams, for anyone who's new to the pod, is daughter of Frank Williams, the founder of the Williams team. She was team principal. So, like, seeing these two out in the car driving was awesome. And it was like a rally car. It was a rear-wheel drive car. They weren't going super fast. It looked like a ton of fun. And I cheer for Leah Block. Her father was someone I thought was the coolest driver of all time, Ken Block. And I like seeing her do stuff in cars. And I cheer for her. And Claire Williams, I mean, if you don't like Claire Williams, then I think you're doing it wrong. So anyway, I like the two people I'm cheering for. I watched them hang out for a little bit. Dirtfish, I found that channel. It's hard to find. And then one other note. Could Carlos Sainz beat Lando Norris in a boxing match? The Lie Detector on the Sky Sports F1 channel. I referenced this a little bit later with our guest. It's 10 minutes. This was great. This is a must-watch. I actually really think all of the Sky Sports Lie Detectors are must-watches. But this one in particular, Carlos just came across as fantastic, funny, genuine, and a great guy, as he almost always does anyway. So maybe that's who he is.
Yep.
And then just short notes, Lollipop Man was excellent this week. I thought he had his fastball back, and the best reactions on P1 with Maddie were fantastic as well. So good reactions to last week's Spanish Grand Prix, mainly because Max went mental and took out George, so everyone had fun talking about it like we did last week too. Rob, anything to add before we close it and move on to the guest?
No, slam that vault up and let's get on to the guest.
The vault is closed.
Well, it's been a while since we've had a guest on. So we went hunting again and we went through our contact list of like, who could we maybe get back on again? And I'm not going to spoil it now because A, you've probably seen the episode artwork and know exactly who it is. And in a minute, I'm about to introduce the guest anyway. So I'm just going to hand over me to do the intro.
Box.
Well, it's always nice when somebody agrees to come back on the dirty side of the track because that means that we didn't mess up completely the first time round. So it's my very great pleasure to say welcome back to the dirty side of the track, Antonia Rankin.
Hey, it's so nice to see you guys again and speak to you guys again. It's so much fun.
We were just sort of comparing notes before we hit record that kind of you coming on the first time round was like the start of an insane couple of weeks for us, where we had you on from kind of, we were going around collecting all the Missed Apex crew. And then at the end of your episode was our teaser trailer for Valtteri Bottas coming on the show. So it was, yeah, crazy. But what's more crazy is what you've been up to in the last couple of years.
Amazing.
Do you like that segue? That was a great
That was a
segue,
good one.
wasn't
That
it?
was a good
Nice,
one.
good
So,
job.
I'm not going to link this to your appearance on the Dirty Side, that in any way you coming on the Dirty Side led to this, but just quickly covering down things. On the grid, a various number of different Formula E events, VIP at Monaco 23, Silverstone, chatting with Nui, behind the scenes at State, Spanish GP watch along at the McLaren Technology Centre, the Ferrari movie Red Carpet, pit lane report of a GT World Challenge Europe, the car rally, oh my gosh, and then managed to squeeze in graduating from the University of Bath. So pretty boring 2 years, really.
Honestly, when you listed all like that, I don't know how I've kept my head screwed on. I feel like I've been neither here nor there for the last 3 years, and I'm gradually fading in and out of consciousness.
We, as the Dirty Side community, all of us in the marbles, we always cheer on anyone who gives, the opportunity to chat. So, Antonia, we are always fans of yours, and we love seeing this.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. It's especially since being with you guys last in 23. So much has changed since then. I mean, for you guys too, big timers with the F1 drivers. Let's not pretend we both haven't grown.
Well, but tell us about some of these items. Like, what's your favorite thing? What stands out the most to you? Like, you look back over the last couple of years and you say, I am so lucky I got to do X.
I'm really incredibly grateful for my first TV job with GT World. GT3 racing, I just completely fell in love with, especially going from primarily an F1 fan to experiencing the size of GT3 cars and how friendly the paddock was, and growing so much within that one season, calling the driver the wrong name in the early hours of the 24 hours of Spa because there were like 900 of them and I was new and I was just trying my best. I still get comments about that actually, but it was the best year ever. I learned so much, and I'm honestly grateful for those kind of opportunities because I feel so young still. Everyone feels so much more experienced than me. I'm 21. So I come into these paddocks and these jobs with all of these drivers and people who have been there for years. And I'm just trying to keep my head above the water. Honestly, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't. I'm enjoying myself, love the sports,
Well, you're doing a great job. At work, I usually use this expression, duck on a pond. Totally serene above the waterline, but underneath, paddling as fast as they can. So if you're saying that, it's working because you are totally nailing it.
Thank you.
And, you talk about these different experiences, and you mention that you see other people who have more experiences. In reality, you see people who are just older, like Rob and I. We're just old. And I'm saying that because many people have commented on the episode you joined us for that while you're young, your knowledge was extraordinary for someone of your youth. And I can only imagine that sort of an incremental growth over the last couple of years as you just blew our doors off talking about stuff about F1 we didn't even know. So I love seeing the success. Super, super amazing for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm full of random facts. Seriously. I know too much about the engine of an M4, but it's really cool, right? So it's the best.
I do, as I love stats. So when we had Sean Kelly on, virtual stat man for F1, I was like a kid in a candy store for random things like that. So I got you on that. I hear you.
He did actually try to outstat the stat man, and
no,
it didn't
a little.
come out well. But you did, Brian.
And I offered an unpaid internship, and he turned me down.
What?
Oh.
I gotta well, obviously the GT World Series is great. What was Dakar Rally like? I mean, that's got to be complete night and day from track-based paddocks. You're just out in, well, I guess sand.
Yes. Honestly, it's so strange being in this hub of action and this paddock in the middle of the desert with literally thousands of people there. And you kind of look to your left and you look to your right, and there's a sand dune either side of you and in front of you and behind you, and nothing for hundreds of miles. And you really have to love racing to be in the middle of Saudi Arabia for 2.5 weeks, covering this random crazy thing that's going on in the middle of nowhere. But it's so special. It so is. And, you know, the first time I did it in 2024, the first few days I was like, right, get me home. This is the tea. I was miserable, right? Because you're far from home. I'd never done the job before, so I didn't know what I was doing. And again, just trying to keep my head above the water. But you catch this bug for the Dakar Rally. It's such a cult mentality. It's absolutely brilliant. And if any of you guys listening haven't watched it or seen any of the highlights, it's just phenomenal. It's this huge spectacle of true, real, gritty racing. And it's so special.
Did you get to interview Carlos Sainz Sr. as well?
I did. I did.
Yeah,
You know,
what was that like?
The only prep I was given before, the only thing I was told to not say was don't insult his age. You know, I wasn't planning on it, but it's kind of an easy question to ask, you know, a lazy question to ask. It's like, well, you're pretty old. How are you still doing this? It's lazy interviewing, but it's an easy question to reach for. And I didn't, obviously. I'm not having the Carlos Sainz on my bum, but he is so cool. He's so cool. That's the only way I can describe him. He's got such a clear head that you only see in the best of drivers. And every single Dakar driver has such passion. I was interviewing this year a couple of the guys doing the classic, and they're there with the camels on the side of their car, you know, decked out, just having the best few weeks of their life. And it's so different to being at Monza with the drivers, at Spa with the drivers. So speaking to someone like Carlos Sainz Sr., having also spoken to his son, Junior, and seeing how differently they approach racing is really interesting.
I think that's tremendous. There was Carlos Sainz Jr. was just on the lie detector test on Sky, and they asked him, "Is he jealous of his father's titles?" And he said, said yes. So I mean, you know, that's a good question. Now, Antonia, did you Leonardo DiCaprio Inception a little bit of idea for him becoming the FIA president, running for the FIA presidency, or was that too early at the time?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, from everything I've heard about that, it's an unsubstantiated rumor. There's been some addressing it, but I haven't actually seen anything concrete yet. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'd love to see him as president.
I would too.
If you guys are listening, you're like, actually, please tell me, please. No, he would be a great fit for it because, like I said, he's got such a clear head. He's very diplomatic. Obviously, he's been doing this for a long time now. And he's a really great figurehead to have in not just the world of rally racing, but in motorsports generally.
Yeah, agreed. Although, would he favor his son at all? Would there be like events called the Carlos Sainz, you know?
I doubt there would be
GP?
Enough instances of Carlos fighting for wins for Senior to intervene. You know?
And unless he passed some really bizarre rule where the entry criteria meant you had to be called Carlos Sainz, then maybe he'd pull it out of the fire. Just looking at some of the other things you did, Brian and I were going again this year. In fact, the week after next to Canada. That was our first ever Grand Prix. It was a couple of months after we'd met you, and kind of seeing the Wall of Champions for the first time was just like, wow. Now you went. I'm very, very envious. I think it was for the GT World Challenge. But didn't you go to? You were at Spa and you posted first time at the top of Eau Rouge, and I was like, oh wow, was that the first time you'd been there, or had you been there before?
Yeah, it was such a fortunate position, and honestly one of the best moments of not just my career but my life. Driving up to the track, you see Eau Rouge right as you turn. Bear in mind, full of trees everywhere. So you like turn past some trees and Eau Rouge appears, and I honestly, there were tears in my eyes, and I walked up it, and it was before the weekend started. And obviously it's a heavy place to be. There's the history, there's been a lot of tragedy at the circuit, knowing that we're about to have this 24-hour race that has previously been chaotic and crazy. But just standing there and looking down down to Radion and round that bit and up to La Source, it's something else entirely. And if you're a cult motorsports fan of any kind, put Spa on your race bucket list. I cannot overstate how special it is. It's phenomenal. Don't love that there's 2 pit lanes. I did a lot of running that weekend, but that's my only complaint. And you have to go up an elevator that's really old and slow. Right, from my side, suboptimal. From the racing side, fantastic.
Well, that's okay. That is an even better segue than I could have even imagined, because we get the same insight from regular contributor to the show, Pit Lane Paul, that works for Valtteri. He will always give us that view of races that the public think are great, races that I hate to go to because it sucks. And Monaco is always on the top of that list, right? Oh, you've got the glitz, the glamour, and everyone loves to be there and be seen on the paddock, he said. And then we get squeezed into the world's smallest pit lane, and it's hot and it's horrible and I hate it. So I guess you've now had that insight as well. Now, Monaco, you went VIPing, didn't you? So how was your Monaco experience?
So Monaco, I only had one work day, and then the rest of it was all fun. So I worked on the Thursday, so kind of before everything got crazy. And it was the first, mind you, the first time I'd ever been in any racing paddock of any kind. Was the first interview I ever did with any driver. Of course, it's Lewis Blimming Hamilton. I'm sat there shaking. I'm like, I've grown up watching this man, and now he's sat next to me in his 5'6" glory. I'm looking down on him like, hey. Anyway, I'm 5'10", by the way. It's special. It really is. But I've been when there's not a race weekend and when it's the Monaco Grand Prix, and it's like 2 different places.
Really?
It's, as a young woman, I'm going to be honest, it's rather unpleasant being a spectator, and just being around Monaco with the type of people that you would expect to attend the Monaco Grand Prix and have the holiday home in Monaco. So I found that aspect actually surprisingly difficult, and it took away a lot from the magic, to be honest. But in terms of the history of the track, I'm very passionate about saving Monaco and keeping it in F1 somehow. And I know the 2-stop strategy was controversial at the last race, but it's nice to see F1 making steps to try just to do anything to try and keep it interesting so that it stays on the calendar. I'm all down for some trial and error. I really am.
Rob had the idea to put the sprinklers on, which George said in the post-race interview, give every team a sprinkler button. I suggested they run it backwards, like on a video game. Let's go. Yeah, just allow them to go totally the wrong way around the track. It would make it different.
We need to have like a bridge where you can use it. You know, like attack mode used to have in Formula E? I'm proposing a bridge that lets you cut the Fairmont hairpin. So you can literally just go straight down. And it's quite steep. If you've walked the track, you don't realize how hilly it is until you're like, it's a lot. But I think there's ways. And I'm really passionate about keeping it on the calendar because it's so special. It's wildly special.
I agree. I actually drove the track in a small Skoda SUV last year, and it was fantastic. I set a new track record of 47 minutes to get around it.
Like the longest it's ever taken.
Ever taken.
And I once tricked my wife into walking the track. She was studying down in Nice University, and I went to meet her for the weekend, and we went over to Monaco, and we got off the bus, and she's like, where should we go? I'm like, we walk this way. And I just kept kind of... And it was when we got to the hairpin that I got busted, because I didn't realise that those red and white curbs are there all year round. So as soon as she saw that, she was like, we're walking the track, aren't we? It's going to be the tunnel in a minute. I was like, yep.
You know
and that was the longest tunnel in my life.
It is, and everything looks so much shorter because it's just over a minute this lap. And you're walking it takes a couple hours. And you kind of get to the hairpin section and you've already done a massive uphill to get round and down past the casino square. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend, take a bike. I saw Charles Leclerc, it's kind of like the Netherlands. Charles Leclerc, you see him about 5 times a day when you're at Monaco because he's on his bike going around the city. That's my recommended mode of transport because there's no Ubers.
Well, even if there was, they're not going to get anywhere, are they, in that place? But,
no, all kilometre of it. Massive city, really.
Okay, so let's move kind of away from looking back over all your highlights and look at what has been your thoughts on the F1 season so far, because as we had you on last time, I think that was the start of, or this 23 season had just started or was about to start, and that was just going to be Max winning everything 100% of the time. And it was really, really difficult recording a podcast each week and trying to act surprised as to what was going on. Last year, we obviously had the carrot dangled to us that there could be a title fight, and it was a little bit too late in the day for Lando to pull it off. This year's a little bit different altogether. So, what have you seen so far, and what are you excited about to see going forward?
So I've worked quite closely with McLaren. I'm currently doing, and I have been at some of their single make series racing, which is fantastic, by the way. I'm now in love with McLaren Arturas, side note. But the reason we've seen such a big change within their team is because they've got an on-site wind tunnel. So what they'll tell you is it goes from sending parts to Germany, back again, 4 days to test one individual element of the car to about an hour, because it's just about 100 meters away in the other part of the MTC, which is why we've seen such a development shift with them. But there's also been such an attitude shift, not just within the teams, but with fans as well. You speak to people and they're excited to see who could win the race, who has the best setup for a Grand Prix. And it's one of the most exciting eras of our sport that I can remember, to be honest, especially looking ahead to the regulation changes next season. It really, really is all to play for. And I think it's going to be fascinating towards the end of this season to see who deliberately drops off to prioritize next season with the regulation changes. I kind of want Gunther Steiner back with Haas just to make some radical choices, honestly. Love that man. But it's nice. Honestly, my main takeaway from it is I'm not hugely biased with who wins races. I get a lot of hate for this. People tell me I'm a fake fan. I'm not. I love the underdog. I love a good fight. Whoever wins a good fight, thumbs up. I'll cheer for them at the podium. And it's just a great time to be an F1 fan.
It really is. You nailed it. It is a great time to be an F1 fan. Are you as enamored with Oscar's trajectory and what he's done in his short time in F1? And it feels like there are 3 teams with 2 seats filled with great drivers, and McLaren is one where you don't even know who's number 1 anymore. And you want to say Lando from history, but you watch them drive and it's like, man, I don't think it could be any closer. And of course Ferrari, and I would say Williams personally, have the 3 closest talented driver bases. But when you look at Oscar, I'm struggling to process how young in his F1 career he is and how amazing he is.
If you look at the trajectory of Oscar's career, it's absolutely phenomenal. I think he's one of maybe 4 drivers in all time to win F4, 3, 2, and hopefully 1. Touch wood. He's always been an incredibly promising, intelligent, thoughtful driver. And that's what separates the champions from race winners, like, for example, Danny Ricciardo.
Yeah.
You see a good driver, and someone has to have such instinct to be a champion and to not just have the fastest car with a great teammate who can help them out. But it's a recipe of lots of things. And that's why we're seeing Red Bull have a hard time right now, because you need 2 cars at the front of the grid. Max is an absolutely incredible driver, arguably the best on the grid. But there's only so much he can do if he's not got someone giving him a tow, fighting off McLaren from behind him. So that's why we're seeing such an unfolding at McLaren at the moment, because they have the opportunity to do so, frankly. Lando has been able to make mistakes at turn 1 because they have the car, the strategy, the tyre deg to get them towards the end of the race. It's a lot of factors in one that's helping Oscar, that's helping Lando. It's hard to tell how it will turn out with the number 1 driver. Everyone's obsessing quite a lot over this number 1, number 2 situation. But I think McLaren are quite happy to let them fight it out as long as it's clean, as long as one of them is the driver's champion and the other one's P2. I don't think it matters to them.
I would love the on-track battle. Sorry, Rob. That's what I'm waiting for, is the papaya rules situation where they're going at, I need papaya doesn't rule. I want them battling on track. I'm waiting for that. That's been the only thing I've been missing so far this season. But I agree with everything you said.
This is the thing, though. Oscar is not the kind of driver to do that. And you hear Lando on the radio being a little bit stroppy. I think that's reasonable given the circumstances. He probably feels entitled to the number one spot given how long he's been with the team. But someone like Oscar is not going to fight his teammate. He simply will not do it. You know, he's one of the most normal guys on that grid. He really is. And I met him and I thought, okay, a lot of the drivers are very media trained. They give a certain vibe on the interviews on TV. Oscar's just a dude. He really is. And it's really refreshing to have someone like him on the grid who is just absolutely rapid and calculated in a way that isn't ever aggressive or malicious, but he still wins races.
Yeah, Paul has said the same thing about just one of the most down-to-earth, level-headed individuals that he's ever met, and because of that, just seems to, like last year, he was getting beaten up. Oh, your tire management's not great. He's suffering from tire deg in the races, and it's just like he went home one night and went, okay, I better fix that, and then all of a sudden here he is this year, and tire deg isn't an issue anymore. On the number one, number two thing, we found a story last week. I think it was an interview with Zach Brown, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't care as long as it's fair." Equal, they'll sort it out. And he said, and we're playing no favoritism. If we only manufacture one new piece, like a wing, and Lando gets it first one week, Oscar will get it first the next time. Who goes out first in quali will be one of them one time, one of them the next. It's like they'll sort it out on the track. And I really like that attitude. Yeah. I don't know why the fan base is in such uproar that there must be like someone has to have a number one badge on their race uniform. I don't get it.
This is the thing, and I understand in some scenarios where it's helpful to prioritize one driver, especially when there's already a divide in the championship points. So, for example, with Max and Checo, it obviously made sense to prioritize Max because he was winning the races. He was going to be winning the championship. But at the moment, what people forget, we're still quite early in the season. Right. There is still so long to go. I think it was in 2022. Charles Leclerc was leading the championship by about 40 points, only a few races in, and everyone immediately flooded to say, well, it's over. Charles won. And guess who didn't win? Guess who didn't win?
Yes. Thanks for reminding me that as we see the Ferrari flag behind me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So then, we kind of talked about McLaren and some drivers. I'm curious your thoughts on the rookies. And we'll count everyone who hasn't had a full-time seat before as a rookie. So we'll go with 6 of them, and you can add Franco in Jack's spot as well. But so I'm curious because I'll just be honest, Kimmy's been great, but I am driving the Isaac bandwagon at this point. Aww. Rob and we get on the pod every week now for the last handful, and we just talk about Isaac before we hit record. And then we hit record, and then we just keep fanboying over him because he seems so fun to watch drive.
He's such a promising young talent. It's so rare for someone just to hit the ground running the way he has, especially with a second team, the way that Red Bull treat the V-carbs. You wouldn't think he'd be able to pull the results out of the bag that he is. But not only is he pulling out P5s, P6s, he's doing it consistently. Right. These aren't fluke results that are afforded to him by the misfortune of a team that's typically further up the grid than them. This is him out driving faster cars because he's doing, it's like I said, he's doing so with a cool head. He's calculated and intelligent. And it's so exciting. Everyone has seen that near incident in the tunnel in Monaco when he was driving an F2. Those kind of reflexes, I can name about 6 drivers on the grid who would have plowed right into the back of that car.
Well, are 5 of them Lance Stroll? I'm sorry.
I'm not. No comment. No comment.
Lance Stroll, and then okay.
It was so funny. There was a comment made by MBS, another one, and he was saying how he wanted the FIA to be paid as much, if not more, than the drivers.
We saw that last week. It was crazy.
Non-profit organization, mind you.
And people don't turn up to watch the FIA. They turn up to watch the Formula One.
What I said was the FIA host the sport. The drivers are the sport. Anyway, my point being, I put on my story, like, these are the 19 most talented drivers in the world in F1. And it was so funny seeing everyone rush to see which was the one that I thought was him. You guys can guess in the comments section which one you think I was talking about, but exactly. No comment.
No comment.
That's as open I can be.
On Isaac, we were debating, we were imploring, please, Red Bull, please, 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 don't bin Yuki and put Isaac up into the second seat because it's too soon. Let him mature at VCARB. We don't want him in that seat. You will kill whoever you put in that seat. It's like a career ender.
He needs another formation lap situation just to get Helmut off the case, just like so Helmut goes and stops paying attention for a couple more races.
They need to make adjustments in the development of the Red Bull.
Yeah.
For sure. And there's a really interesting interview with Alex Albon that recirculates every few races when the second Red Bull driver does a horrible job. But he talks about how Max has the car, and he has it very pointy, very on the nose, which is a really particular style of driving because you have to be so on it as a driver. The car is almost too responsive. You almost have to put in too much input to have to control it because it is a bull, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of drivers are getting into this car and they're good drivers. Checo is a good driver, and I'll die on that hill. Liam Lawson, it was too soon, but he is a good driver. He's just being outdriven by Hadjar at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult to get in a car that is set up in a really particular way and drive it as well as the person who has pretty much designed it. And he said, these are my specifications. This is the car I want. And of course, they'll give it to Max. They will design the car that Max wants to suit Max's driving style. Obviously, no one's blaming them for that. But there has to be a way to adjust the setup for the second driver just to make it more tolerable. Because every single driver who gets in that car is so far off of Max that there has to be something now. We've been seeing it since Daniel Ricciardo left the team because he knew what was going to happen.
I mean, Gasly's not a bad driver now, and yes, he was younger. Albon's not a bad driver now. Yes, he was younger. I agree with you on Checo. When he won in Bahrain on the Sakir track, the short in 2020, I may have cried a little bit when he won that race because, you got to cheer for the guy who was the underdog, the tire whisperer who turned things into things, the Mexican Minister of Defense. And then he after 1 year at Red Bull, it was like he's not even the same guy anymore.
I don't think people remember he nearly left the sport, Perez. He was out of the seat. It was when Racing Point were turning into Aston Martin, and that it was in their era of the pink Mercedes, so they were getting podiums. And everyone was talking about Checo and saying what a shame it was that we were about to lose him from the sport because he'd been doing so well. And this is so quickly forgotten in sports generally because each season is like a new chapter. But he is a good driver. And obviously, like you said, 1 year in that Red Bull, his spirit was crushed.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
It was after that. It was a mess. All right, so we got a little bit on Isaac, but other rookies that have caught your eye in terms of flashes of brilliance. I mean, Kimi obviously has looked great at times and some consistency with the car maybe now. But I'm just curious what your thoughts on anyone else of the rookie class who has shown in your eyes.
I mean, yeah, it goes without saying. Antonelli has been exceptional. The car is a difficult car at the moment. We've been hearing it on the radio with George, who frankly has stepped up to become Mr. Mercedes. He's been an excellent driver for them recently. I don't think anyone can challenge that.
Very consistent.
So it's really nice to see Kimi at his teeny little age, who can't drive a road car, mind you, actually putting in some really excellent performances. It's really nice to see. And yeah, they've been struck a bit by misfortune. I think that's to be expected when you're outside McLaren and Red Bull's kind of era in the timing charts. I think Franco Colapinto, it's so nice to see him back. Not only is he a good driver and a reliable driver, but he's a really great personality to have in the sport. He brings in the South American audience who left a little bit with Perez, and he's so likable. There's so much conversation and discourse around him because people like him a lot and they want to support him, which for a team like Alpine, who has been struggling a little bit to get cult following, it's perfect for them. And it's working so well. They've got Gasly, who is a very good driver and who is now doing a great job with them. I think they've got a really strong lineup, and it was harsh to get rid of Doohan so quickly. I absolutely think so. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes with the team. There probably were other political reasons, bureaucracy. That often happens behind the scenes when drivers are dropped and it seems sudden. But yeah, I think they made the right choice to bring in Colapinto, and I really like him.
Do you think do you put any stock in the rumor that like Briatore has said to him, don't crash? Because Colapinto's pace seems a little bit off from when he first burst onto the scene, and he was kind of driving like no holds bars, and then he got the nickname Crasher Pinto. And I know it's probably putting two and two together and coming up with five, but the last 3 races or so, he's just really, really struggled. But it feels like when he gets out of the car, he can turn around to Flavio and say, "I didn't crash."
Frankly, I think he was probably looking in the mirror, telling himself that he made a bit of a storm appearance last season, yeah, but he'll have been given a slap on the wrist from whoever his coaches are and whoever his trainers are to say, look, you're in now. Don't get kicked out again, because he would have had to put on a storm of a performance last season in order to make the lasting impression he wanted to get a permanent seat, because he was gone either way at the end of last season.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
of course, he was putting in these crazy all or nothing stints. So he'll be cautious in the Alpine, of course, because he wants to get on well. He wants to learn the car. He wants to integrate himself without butting heads with anyone, without causing hundreds of thousands in damage. I think it will come with time. I really do. He's a good driver. And if he's good enough to know how to take the edge off, that's a start in itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hope he gets given the time to show that. So, like,
Yeah.
let's not get the knee-jerk reaction of, oh, he's been at the back. Like, next, who's next in the Alpine seat? So, just to put you on the spot, then, I'm going to leave Brian's rookie conversation behind us now and look towards the title. So,
McLaren.
Oscar Piastri.
oh, okay, you not even thinking about it. So, Oscar Piastri without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
How close is Lando, or is it Lando behind him? Where do you
Right.
have Max in the pecking order?
I think Lando and Max will be very, very close. I think where they balance each other out, Max doesn't have the teammate. Like I said, that's a huge detriment, especially in qualifying. It means he won't be able to start as high up the grid as he could if he had someone giving him a tow, helping him out with traffic. These kind of things are really important and really underrated in how big a role they play in race results. But Lando, I don't want to do this subject an injustice, because I really appreciate the way he's been talking about his mental health and being so open with it. I think it's incredibly important. And most importantly, I don't think it makes him weak the way that some people have suggested.
Agreed
at all.
100%.
But you see in his driving when he stops having confidence in himself. You literally see him drop off. And these are the kinds of things, I think, if Piastri pulls ahead too far in the championship, Lando will go, done. Okay, I'm not winning then. Guess I'll just be the second driver. And I don't think that's a comment on his mental health at all. At all. I think this is a separate conversation.
Yep.
But I don't think he measures up to Piastri in how Piastri is just eyes forward, get the best race result, not just for himself, but for the team. And that adds up over time.
Yeah, we've been debating that, and maybe this is where we differ slightly, is we saw Lando being closer to Oscar and actually being Max that falls away a little bit earlier, just because the McLaren car is so good that they'll probably podium all the time. Unless they get into a crash or whatever, they're probably going to be 1, 2, 3, maybe fourth. Whereas Max is going to definitely be up there like he has been. But every now and again, he's going to have, like he had in Spain, where he finishes lower down the points, or in Miami, where he fell a little bit further back as well. So for everyone he kind of doesn't stay up with them, that just helps the points divide come in. So I kind of see Max falling off the pace first, and then it'll be interesting to have a bit of a showdown between those two. But no, interesting. So you've got Oscar just pulling away with it then, basically.
Yeah, I think towards the second half of the season, sure. I think that's a really interesting point that you've just made, though. I think the thing is with Lando, I think we also will see split strategies coming in with McLaren, whereas Max will always be given the preferential strategy. Right. So in races, McLaren will go, okay, well, Oscar's leading, so we're going to give him this strategy and we'll split you guys to cover off various variables. And I do think actually that will cause either Lando or Oscar, we don't know, but whoever is in that less preferential strategy, I think that can cause some pretty bad results. And again, when you're a driver, you need to have faith in your team, in your strategy. You need to trust them so much. And that's why we've seen issues with drivers before on the radio. Ferrari, I hate to say it, going, wait, what? What do you mean, guys? Wait, what? This isn't what we talked about. And then they're driving into the void. They don't know what they're doing.
They're swapping positions left and right, and it never works.
This is my issue. The drivers need to trust what they're being told is the absolute non-negotiable best option. Max does, McLaren do, Ferrari don't, and that's why they're not on the podium every weekend.
And I think that's our sound clip right there, because that's really well said and bang on accurate.
It just crushes my Ferrari spirits down.
It does.
I was just about.
I'm more a driver person
you.
than a team person. Rob loves Ferrari, so he'll be crying.
Wait, let
me
grab it. I'll describe it because people won't see. Today, proving I'm a Ferrari fan and I want them to do well because I feel like I play devil's advocate with them a lot. I went to this, Tony's Chocolate. They have this place in Amsterdam where you can design a chocolate bar. And on the sides of this chocolate bar, I have the text, Forza Ferrari.
Really?
Yes.
And I made it Ferrari colors. And I even did HP blue on the sides. Just a disclaimer, legally, I'm a Ferrari girl. Love Ferrari.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I may have a Ferrari on my desk of Charles.
But I also like McLaren and Mercedes and literally everyone.
Well, I don't have unlimited cars, but I may have a McLaren out here too.
Huge with the Senna livery.
That was we did a best livery of all time in February, and I made sure that Monaco Senna livery was in the running. It didn't go as far as I wanted it to, but that's okay.
Gulf livery for me will never lose. I love it.
We may have had two Gulf liveries in there.
Williams. This is the thing. Any Gulf
Agreed.
livery, I'm gonna show up for.
Agree with you 100%. So then, if that's kind of your thought on the Drivers' Championship, where do you have the best of the rest Constructor Championship? So we have, we have obviously McLaren, and then we have this at the time Red Bull or just Max Red Bull, and then we have Mercedes and Ferrari, and then there's this interesting kind of conversation that says, who's next? We got VCARB, we've got Williams, assuming Williams can get away from Spain and go back to what they've been doing. At one point, for a very brief period, Haas looked okay. Aston Martin, will they ever get up off the canvas? We'll find out. Alpine, boy, only 2 times with points. That's not looking good. And then, we don't need to talk about Sauber too much because Nico Hülkenberg can only go 5th so many times. But so, I'm just curious, best of the rest, how do you see that shaking out? Because I'm actually really enjoying that aspect of this championship so far this season as well.
The battle in the midfield is not talked about enough. I know people brush it off because it's the midfield.
Yeah.
But with this amount of consistency from a team like McLaren, it means that there's a lot of tightness in the middle going on. So we saw last season how consistency pays off, how it really pays off for a team like Mercedes, where they're not on the podium anywhere near every weekend. They get the occasional P3. I mean, last season, we all had a tear in our eye with Lewis at Silverstone, right? We were all crying. That wasn't just me.
No, it wasn't just you.
It's that kind of thing where they weren't on the podium consistently, no. But they were P4, P5, P6, almost every single week. And if they can continue that this season, we've seen a few shakes. Again, it's early. I think they'll do really, really well because you never really see them out of the points at all. Unlike teams like, for example, VCARB, where they're out a lot, Alpine, where they get the occasional points, and thumbs up, love that. Same with Sauber. It was so great. It was so great to see Hulk P5.
That was wild.
Oh, and I think it makes it harder when with series like Drive to Survive, for example, this is the closest analogy I have. But I've met, obviously, with my job, a couple of different people from each teams. And everyone wants it really badly, and I want it for them, and I don't want to pick a side because they're all really nice. This is the issue with Drive to Survive. If you've found the sport through it, you know everyone, and you want them all to win because you've had this whole episode on their struggle story to
Right.
how they got here. And it's
Despite the fact that they dropped our hero Valtteri, I am enjoying not seeing Sauber just wallowing at the bottom with 0 points. I think the fact that, like Brian just articulated, almost everybody from Williams, even Alpine, it doesn't take too many decent point scoring positions to flip it all round. 5th through 10th is just completely open. I'd love to see Williams do it because I got into the sport. I won't age myself, but it might have been Nigel Mansell in a yellow and blue Williams. But very soft spot for Williams as well after Ferrari. So I like seeing their resurgence and I love their driver partnership. So I'd like to see Williams be, 5th, keep where they are and be best of the rest. I'd love to see a freak win for them somehow as well. I'm not sure.
I mean,
let's wish for a podium. Baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. Antonia's right. Take it easy, Rob. Podium.
No, I agree though. Williams, from where they were consistently 1920 in the Claire Williams era. Not that I'm blaming her. It's so nice. It's so nice to see them up there with two fantastic drivers who not only bring experience to the team, but track knowledge, consistency, speed, and it motivates everyone behind the scenes. If you speak to the engineers, they get a taste of what this car can do, and they're so excited. Again, they want it so badly, right? And a team like Williams with so much heritage in Formula One, it's wonderful to see them not bottom of the barrel every single time because it's disheartening.
Have you heard any truth behind the rumor that there's a certain London business school student named Latifi who wants to come back now that the car's better?
Again, unsubstantiated. I think it's how do I not perjure myself right now, guys? Help. He would bring a lot of money to the team. One of their biggest sponsors when Latifi was at the team was Lavazza, which is his family company. He brought a lot of money. That cannot be underrated with how important it is at the time to a team like Williams. They don't need him now, and they probably don't want him now. Yeah. They've got Carlos Sainz and they've got Alex Albon. Which one of them would you swap out for Latifi?
Yeah, neither. And they have Colapinto in the wings when they take him back from Alpine. I know, I was just kidding. But
time has passed. It's a cool rumor, but
it is. I still say there are 3 gold driver pairings, and Williams is one of those 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, great shout.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing those guys racing in Canada. I got again soft spot for Carlos Sainz. Loved him in the Ferrari. Can't wait to see him in the Williams. Really looking forward to that. One of the things I'm also looking forward to is a much more packed F1 Academy program over that weekend as well. We just downloaded the app and I was looking at kind of the program with my daughter, and she was like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, it's the F1 Academy." "What's that?" That's the women's race. Oh my gosh! She got so excited. So I know we're up against time here, but what I did want to just quickly ask you, because both Brian and I are kind of father of daughters, and we get to see the world through their eyes sometimes, is that from your perspective, how much have you seen a shift towards more female representation in the sport? Because I think about it now, she'll sometimes sit and watch it with me, but Bernie Collins, we've Ruth Boscombe, we've got lots of kind of more and more in the sort of the mainstream. But from your perspective, you kind of mentioned a maybe not great experience in Monaco, but maybe that's more the clientele that were hanging around the place. I love the face there. How is it feeling inside the sport over the last couple of years? Are you seeing a shift in the right direction?
Representation, absolutely. It's so nice to see competitive women racing in a series that elevates them and gives them the platform that they need to get the sponsorships that historically they've really struggled to get. I think the initiative as a whole, what they're doing for the sport, how Susie Wolff has presented the entirety of F1 Academy is exemplar. And I've seen how much it means to women, to see other women, to see competitive quality racing. But I haven't seen in correlation acceptance and positive attitude change in the exact kind of people who you would expect to have a negative attitude. There hasn't been as much conversion as I would have wanted to see, and that will come with time, especially with drivers going on from F1 Academy to do great things. Bianca Bustamante now in GB3. It's it goes beyond F1 Academy, and it takes time. It really does. And I think every single female working in motorsports has had a negative experience, and that's not a testament to horrible attitudes being in everyone still. There's always going to be certain people, always. And it doesn't mean that F1 Academy or similar initiatives have been a failure. It's just going to take time, because the more women who are winning races, who are going across to GT3, Le Mans, everything, every single type of series in rally racing. We've got some exceptional female rally racers. Cristina Gutierrez, one of my heroes. There are some great, successful, really inspirational women. And it takes time of them being in the spotlight, doing their thing, being super cool, for that to trickle down into the actual DNA of racing. Because for so long, it's been men, and that's okay, because that's in the past, and we're changing it now. And it's, like I said, it's a really exciting time to be a motorsports fan. It really is. There's so much positive change coming that makes our sport better. And that's the main thing.
That is a fantastic answer. And the reason I wanted to kind of sort of end on that was to just also just pay you the kudos of you're part of this as well, right? The amount of people that you bring into the sport in terms of being sort of a role model for females that want to get into the sport, make it sound interesting, make it sound fun. You can't underestimate, your content creation and pulling those eyeballs in as well. So I think we need to applaud you as well for being one of those people. Yes, you're part of it and you're looking at everyone else and the drivers and the institution. But no, I just think you have done absolutely fantastic job as we've kind of got to know you over the last, when you came on a couple of years ago to where you are now. So just keep rocking it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Antonia, thanks so much for joining us. This was an absolute pleasure, as it was the time before, and we look forward to doing this again sometime.
Of course. I love chatting with you guys. I feel like we just yap and call it an episode. It's the best. It's so fun.
It's all we do every week, to be fair. Yeah, thanks again, Antonia.
Box.
Oh, that was absolutely fantastic speaking to Antonia again. Just such a good time. And without trying to get too deep, at the end there, when we kind of like thanked her and just sort of said, look, she should give herself some kudos for being a role model, is that, do you know what? You and I have both got daughters. And I don't know, your daughters are ahead of mine. Mine's only just turned 13, but she's getting to that age now where she's questioning things around her and she's bringing stuff to me where I go, ooh, yeah, as a guy, I've never really noticed that. Like she brought the other day, she said she was watching the basketball and she said, why is the women's NBA the WNBA, but the men's NBA is just the NBA? It's not the MNBA. I was like, because reasons. And then she was like, because the guys in the soccer don't do it. It's USMT for the US men's team, and it's USWT for the women's team. So that's equal. Why is basketball not the same? I'm like, I think your mom's calling. I got to go. And I just think, you start to see things through kind of like your daughter's eyes to some degree. And I think the way that Antonia was speaking, like she's obviously fought against a whole bunch of stuff to get where she is. But I think then she's helping the next generation to like look at someone like her and go, hey, if she can do that, I could do that. I think that's great.
I think personally, I think it's in all of our job descriptions as good human beings to support each other and make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to do cool things like that. And she deserves it. So I will continue to be an ally of basically her cause, women's causes, and anyone who's looking to get into racing in any shape, form, or flavor. Sapman's got your back. But
yeah, like we can get people into racing.
No,
like
but I mean, we will always
come on.
We will always be fans. We'll always be fans.
Yeah, I know.
But speaking of things we can get into, the Canadian Grand Prix is one because we have tickets, BAs. We've got whatever you want to call them.
Oh, that was almost right up there with my George octave that you just hit there. But,
we did tell that story to Antonia after we hung up.
Yeah, we did. Thanks for that. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I thought we managed to get away with it, and then you have to go and embarrass me. So, yes. Anyway.
That's my job.
I know. Let's dine out on the Will Be There bit in a minute. Let's do our normal preview, and then we'll go over the top. So, Canadian Grand Prix, held since 1961 and was alternating between Mo Sport Park and Mont Tremblant. Probably butchered that one.
All right, that's good.
It was at, where is it? Mont Tremblant for 68 and 70. Motorsport had a whole bunch of significant safety concerns after the 77 Grand Prix. So they went, right, let's move the race to Toronto instead. But that started hitting some problems. So they pulled together a man made island in the middle of the St. Lawrence Seaway after it had been used for an expo in 67 and went, let's race here. And we'll call it the Circuit Ile Notre Dame. And so it became. And off they went. And it's kind of it's not a street track. It's because it's not a street.
Right.
It's a park with racetrack in it.
It's an
So,
Albert
I'm
Park
not-
type situation. I mean, it's like, that's
Albert Park's got some public roadways merged into it as well, hasn't it? Is it all inside the park, or has it got a bit of?
I think it's in the
I'm not
park, but I
sure.
think you can
Yeah,
drive
maybe.
on it normally, like cars and stuff.
yeah.
But I think this is just a walking trail the rest of the time. But I don't know.
Anyway, so it was finished in
We
1978.
should have known
Gilles
that, by the way. We should have known the answer to what we just said.
What, the Albert Park one?
No, what Canada is the rest of the year, and like
Oh, Canada's not.
explicitly.
It's not a road. It's not like you don't
No,
go
but
and
there's
drive
no
around the
cars
park and the
there.
rest
But
of-
like, do they ever host other racing events?
yeah, like the F1 Academy and the Porsche
Not
GT
during the
series.
same weekend. Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, moving on. Gilles Villeneuve was the first winner, and then when he was killed in quali in Spa in '82, they renamed the track after him. It was there from '88 to 2008. Just had a little break for 2009, but it's been back on the calendar since 2010. 2011, and I didn't look up the length of it, but 2011 was the longest race in F1 history due to all of the huge rain delays, and it was the race where Jenson Button went from last place to win the race in a
He
storming
had
rain drive.
5
So,
pit stops, if I remember right. Plus, I think a
something
mandated red
crazy,
flag
yeah.
or something. But he had like 5 pit stops. It was wild. I just actually saw it recently. Saw the short version of that race. So
we get all the groundhogs running around, and TV loves to zero in on one when they find one, and we quite often see them in free practice, quali. They'll be on the side, and people are kind of, oh, they might hit one. Well, some people think, well, have they ever interacted with the race? Yes, they have. 2007 will haunt Anthony Davidson forever. He was running third, where he hit something and broke his front wing, and the replay showed it was a groundhog. Got caught up in his front wing as it ran across the track. Not really the way you probably want to go as a groundhog. Or mind you, be quick.
I mean, do you think he went back? Like, he should have gone in 2008 and tried to do it again. It would have been Groundhog Day.
Oh, God. Can we press the stop record button now and just...
It's on my side, not yours, chump.
We also have the Wall of Champions. The name was coined in 1999 after Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, and Jacques Villeneuve. That name seems...
This is Jacques
why do I
Villeneuve,
know
and
the
you're
name?
listening to the dirty side of the track.
I was ready.
Yes, that Jacques Villeneuve. They all crashed into the wall after the chicane. And then also other champions, not all necessarily in F1, F3, F2, whatever. We've had Ricardo Zonta, Montoya, Carlos Sainz, K-Mag, Jenson Button, and Vettel have all hissed that wall at speed. So it has claimed a number of champions.
And the downer is, if I can just be a downer for a second, that Rob and I learned in 23, if you want to watch the Wall of Champions from general admission, you'll have to figure out a way to see through blue tarp. What they had this
yes.
right behind it. There's like a lot of marshals in that area, and there's a porta potty for the marshals, and then there's no grandstands right there, and you can see it, but they put the blue tarp up over the part where you can't just like stop along the walkway and watch. And it is a narrow walkway, and I get maybe why you don't want 13 people deep, but man, come on, Canada.
They do cover up a lot of the general, like places where you would just be able to get a good view of things. They're like, nope, we don't want to give general admission too many freebies, so up goes the blue tarp. I'm sure we're going to see that again this year, but
Killer.
we're going to have to see if we can catch up with, goes by the handle Double Wave Yellows on Threads, but he will be in charge of flags at the Wall of Champions on the Fridays, so we'll have to
Really?
see if we can swing by and say hi. Yeah, he said for the rest of no point trying to find him on Saturday and Sunday because he said he's in Narnia, and I was like, what the hell does Narnia mean? It's like I'm down in like turn 7 or wherever basically there is no public access and no fan can really get down there. I'm flagging one of the corners that no one can see me at. I said, so come say hi on Friday. So we'll try and find you.
Yeah.
Last year's race, in fact, this is a repeat of what we had last week where we talked about George and Max having identical times, but this time it was for pole. So George and Max got identical times. George set the time first, so he got pole. Max was on the front row. This was the moment we all dreamed for
The Haas.
8 whole laps. We had a monsoon before the start, like we can get in Canada. But it was drying, but maybe not that dry. So most of the grid gambled on Inters. Haas went full wets thinking it might rain again. And for 8 laps, they were a rocket ship as they came through the field. Me and Brian are trading notes going, oh my God, what's K-Mag doing? Dreaming of a Haas 1-2 for 8 laps, thinking this is the best risk-taking on a strategy ever. Until it wasn't.
I thought Hulkenberg was going to get a podium. I was like getting really excited here. And then, like you say, then it wasn't. Then they had to box and everyone drove by. I'm like, all right, I guess they didn't get enough time on those wets, but that's okay.
Yeah, it just dried out too quick for them, and I guess they hoped some rain would come to top it up, and it didn't. So
But you got to take a chance when you're at the backfield like that, especially where they were last year.
What do they say? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
Right.
They had to go for it. People keep saying that Lando gets a lot of luck with safety cars and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, last year's race wasn't one of those.
No.
Logan, do you remember the name? Logan Sargent? Yeah.
I do.
He caused a safety car, surprise, surprise, and he caused it just as Lando had gone past the pit entrance, and then that meant that by the time he came out, I think Max and George had gone past him, so he went leading the race to be in third. Lando got George, but Lando was chasing down Max, and it looked like we might be in for a big finale. And then another driver of yesteryear, one Checo Perez, crashed, pretty much destroyed his car, and we all thought, oh, it's another safety car. And then Red Bull asked him, can you get it back? And he limped back to the pits in a car that was clearly not roadworthy because they didn't want another safety car and they didn't want Max being caught. They took a €25,000 fine, and Checo got a 3-place grid penalty for the next race, which I always felt bad for Checo because he was told to drive that back, but he's the one that ends up with the penalty.
And interestingly, the gas man did the same thing in Monaco, not for a teammate, but he brought it back from the tunnel after he came out and ran into Yuki, and he had like half a wheel and needed help braking in the pit lane. He didn't get a grid penalty after that. I thought he should have. I know there's not a lot of places to pull off, but that's not an answer. But anyway.
Yeah, so repeat winners, we have Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton on 7, and then it's quite the drop-off because the next pair behind have got 3 wins each, Nelson Piquet and 1 Max Verstappen, and then there's a bunch down there with 2, Jackie Ickx, Jackie Stewart, Alan Jones, Ayrton Senna, and Sebastian Vettel have all got 2. Constructors-wise, McLaren lead the way with 13, Ferrari on 12, Williams on 7, Red Bull on 5, Brabham and Mercedes on 4, Tyrrell and Benetton on 2. Just thinking about this, about kind of looking forward to next week, but I don't think we've mentioned it, but we're going to be there, Brian.
Oh, man, this is going to be so great. We're going to be there. And so we have similar seats to last time. I think 1 grandstand over, maybe. We're down a little lower, and Rob keeps telling me it'll be fine. I keep freaking out. We're going to have a view of just the chain link fence. I know we won't. We took video from down there. It'll be fine. We're going to have a great shot of the...
We literally sat there for the support races.
I know, and it was great.
When the support races were on and all the crowds had emptied, we took the advantage of going voluntarily all the way down to the front so that we would have a better view. Sitting there thinking, isn't this great? This year you get the tickets and you see that we're down at the front, and now you're freaking out going, we won't be able to see anything.
I'm nervous. And so, but we will have a good shot of the garages because we are on the start-finish straight. We'll have a good shot of the podium again. Although this year I suggest once the race is done, we may want to look for a gap in the fencing and maybe try to get on the track for the podium too. So just something to think about, because if we wait long enough,
I'm thinking...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this time we go armed with a little bit of knowledge. Been there, done that. We might not be giddy-eyed, wide-eyed, looking at everything every 5 minutes, going, "Oh my gosh, look, Canadian tree!" Like, well, we were just so like, everything was special, right? So, I think I'm with you. We know the lay of the land a little bit more now, so I think trying to get through that. Leg it down to the podium has got to be, because we know it's going to take forever to get out of the track. Whether you hang, like last time we were like, oh, look at all the crowds going towards the podium, let's see if we can get out of here. 4 hours later,
yeah, exactly.
It's like there's no point, so we might as well just leg it down to the podium and get as close as we can.
Sounds good. And if anyone's going to be there, let us know. We'd be happy to catch up with you in the beer garden tent area at some point, although there are more support races this year, Academy and other things, and I want to watch all of it. So I'm basically planning on being in the grandstand the whole time, watching cars go around track as much as I can, at least.
Yeah, praying that Mother Nature doesn't throw another
Will be
monsoon
good.
our
Do you
way.
want
I've
me to
seen
bring
that
you a poncho?
Saturday's supposed to be. Yeah, bring a poncho. If you've got those Silverstone ponchos, bring
do.
those.
I'll
I'd
bring
have to
two.
buy one then.
Yeah.
But it looked at the moment, I know everything changes in the weather forecast. Right now, it's looking dry Friday, and then there's Saturday with a chance of a shower in the morning, and Sunday's looking dry as well. If it
Chance of a shower up your shorts
stays like
in
that,
the
I'm
morning.
okay. A little.
I mean, that's what happened last year.
Don't
The
even know what that means. I'm not sure I want to know.
It rained up your pants. It was coming sideways so fast, and the wind was so furious, and they're trying to the wall on the bridge on the St. Lawrence, it comes up to like roughly your kneecap, and it's like 80-mile-an-hour winds, and everyone's afraid of getting blown into their death down in the river, and the rain somehow was going up your shorts because it's anyway.
I could quite easily swerve that and not experience that again. I'm okay with taking that away from the list of experiences. Been there, done that on that one now.
That was rough, man. I thought we were in real trouble for a little while there.
We will try and be a bit better. Like, again, we were so caught up in our first ever Grand Prix. You can forgive us for, okay, we took a ton of pictures and put a lot out there, but maybe we'll try and do a few more little kind of like video diaries that we can put on social so you can see how we're getting on. Because we just completely forgot last time because we were just like kids in a candy store going, oh my God,
There's a real chance that happens again, though. Let's just be honest.
There is, but there is an increased percentage that we actually remember this time. Last time it was 0. This time it might make it up to 5 or 10%.
Oh, man, this is going to be great. So one programming note. Next week's episode will drop on Monday, not on Sunday, because we will not have the ability to record it Sunday. And then we will do that on Monday, probably when we both get home. So it might even be Monday night.
I think it will be Monday night in the States. So it's probably for all those that listen in Europe, it'll be a Tuesday morning commute episode for you guys. So don't worry if you don't see anything drop straight away because we have to get home.
Or just assume Rob got blown over the side of the bridge and now it's the dirty side of the track solo
because
episode.
That would definitely fall into the 10% chance where you film me going down and say to him, why
No
would you fall, Rob?
I don't want to get near the edge. I'm not going over that bridge. Oh, man.
Right, I think we could
done.
easily burn another 20 minutes with giddy excitement. So let's maybe wrap it up and look forward to our midweek predictions where we'll try not to act too giddy again. And then we'll talk next week after we've been to the race.
Rob nailed it. We'll talk to you in 1 week's time. Listen for us in the States Monday night. Otherwise, Tuesday morning. Be well, everyone. We are, as you can tell, a bit excited. Canada, baby.